A few weeks ago, when Congress was debating the debt ceiling and deficit spending, Senator Josh Hawley proposed that Congress focus on the deficit that really matters, and that is the supposed trade deficit with China. Now, it's convenient for Senator Hawley to pivot like this, considering that Senator Hawley has been a loud advocate for increased spending over the years, especially during COVID when Senator Hawley was teaming up with socialist Senator Bernie Sanders to demand increases in spending. There's also something to be said about the zero-sum fallacy that Senator Hawley operates on when he talks about trade deficits. Additionally, since then, Donald Trump and his loud cheerleaders have been scrutinizing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for apparently opposing Trump's tariffs on goods imported from China. So it looks like international trade could potentially become a divisive issue amongst Republicans in the upcoming primary contests. Of course, for many protectionists regarding China, they have constructed a nice Motte and Bailey to defend their trade agenda. And for those who don't know, a Motte and Bailey is a rhetorical tactic based on the medieval castle structure, where the Bailey is the more desirable place to live, but vulnerable when attacked. Whereas the Motte, usually high up on a hill and well fortified, is less desirable to stay, but better able to withstand an attack. So when someone puts forth a desirable but weak argument, and that argument is challenged, they then retreat to a more formidable position. Bringing this back to trade with communist China, the appeals to economics is the Bailey for protectionists in this situation. And I'm not going to bore you guys with the details. I've done many videos over the years explaining why protectionism is both immoral and impractical, as protectionist trade policies often yield the opposite consequences of the protectionists' desired goals. Protectionist trade policies often result in higher priced goods, scarcity, fewer jobs, and other undesirable consequences.
That's just not smart.
And from what I've seen in my experience, whenever you address the economics of protectionism regarding China, protectionists often retreat to the Motte by bringing up national security. This is especially easy when talking about the Chinese Communist Party, which is both a brutal dictatorship and an adversarial regime to the United States. Protectionists will usually say something like, by allowing trade with China, the United States would be helping enrich China's economy, and thus, by extension, strengthening the Chinese Communist Party as a healthier economy would mean that the CCP has access to more and better resources to further their geopolitical agenda, which includes strengthening China's military capabilities, undermining America's interests, and surpassing the United States as the dominant influence in the world. It's also worth mentioning that the national security pivot is not exclusive to China, as Trump during his presidency relied on the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 to increase import taxes on steel and aluminum. The 1962 law allows the president to increase import taxes by executive order in the name of, you guessed it, national security. And while the Chinese Communist Party is a legitimate concern, there is much reason to believe that retreating to the Motte on this issue is a bit disingenuous. Many of Trump's tariffs were imposed on countries other than China, including freer and friendly countries with the United States. Even at his campaign launch back in 2015, Trump talked about how he would impose tariffs on automakers who would move their production to Mexico.
If I was president, I'd say, congratulations. I understand that you're building a nice $2.5 billion car factory in Mexico, and that you're going to take your cars and sell them to the United States, zero tax, just flow them across the border. And you say to yourself, how does that help us, right? How does that help us? Where is that good? It's not. So I'd say, Congratulations, that's the good news. Let me give you the bad news. Every car and every truck and every part manufactured in this plant that comes across the border, we're going to charge you a 35% tax.
Then there's the fact that all of this talk about international trade resulting in jobs getting shipped overseas and declines in U.S. manufacturing did not start when China emerged economically. Back in the 1980s and early 1990s, the protectionist dorks were fear-mongering about Japan, a relatively free and friendly country with the United States, surpassing the United States in terms of economics, manufacturing, and technology.
Bob, we are losing industries like autos and steel. We have lost TVs, VCRs, radio. The Japanese are putting under assault supercomputers, flat panel technology. They are challenging our aircraft industry. Where is the administration plan to make America first again in manufacturing by the year 2000?
And for those who don't know, that was former presidential candidate Pat Buchanan, who would eventually go on to advocate for imposing tariffs on goods from Japan.
You absolutely suck!
Aside from China not being the economic boogeyman in this clip, what else is interesting is that this is from Pat Buchanan's 1992 presidential campaign, meaning that it predates the passage of the North American Free Trade Agreement, better known as NAFTA, in 1993. NAFTA has also been held up as a boogeyman by trade protectionists ever since its passage, and scapegoated for supposed job losses and declines in manufacturing. Again, none of this shit is new. As you can see, protectionist knuckleheads were complaining about all of the same shit before the passage of NAFTA and the emergence of China's economy. So excuse me whenever I get a little suspicious of these protectionist knuckleheads trying to play the national security card. I have a sneaking suspicion that their bullshit-ass trade restrictions won't stop with China. And on top of all of that, I think it's rather cute that the Republican Party, who often likes to mock the Democrats for being terrible on economics, which they are, the Republican Party has evolved into a party that thinks that tax increases and deficit spending and corporate welfare is a solid economic agenda. Way to go, guys!